People often say that true love is impossible to hide. I used to believe that if someone truly cared about you, they would eventually see the honesty in your heart. I was wrong. When I met her, I wasn't searching for romance. Life was already complicated enough, and I had learned to expect very little from people. Then she appeared, and somehow everything around me became brighter. Her smile had a quiet warmth that could calm the noisiest day, and her voice carried a kindness that made ordinary conversations unforgettable. I never tried to impress her with expensive gifts or grand promises. Instead, I showed my love in small ways. I remembered the things she liked, listened when she needed someone to talk to, encouraged her during difficult moments, and celebrated every little success she achieved. To me, love wasn't about saying beautiful words every hour. It was about being present, being loyal, and being someone she could always count on. But she never believed me. She thought I was pretending she believed. I was just another person who would leave when life became difficult every time. I confessed my feelings. She smiled politely but kept a wall around her heart. "I don't think anyone can love someone this much," she once told me. Those words stayed with me for years. I tried everything I could without forcing her. I respected her space, never pressured her, and never asked her to choose me immediately. I simply hoped that one day my actions would become stronger than her doubts. Months passed, then years. People around us started asking why I was still waiting. "Move on," they said. "You deserve someone who believes in you." Maybe they were right, but love doesn't always follow logic. Sometimes your heart refuses to give up even when your mind already has. There were moments when she needed help, and I was there before anyone else. When she was sick, I checked on her. When she faced problems at work, I encouraged her to stay strong. When her family went through difficult times, I quietly supported her without expecting anything in return. Still, she believed I had hidden motives. She thought I wanted something from her. She couldn't understand that genuine love asks for nothing except honesty. One evening, she looked at me and said, "I don't think you'll always be here." I smiled sadly. "I hope one day you realize why I stayed." She laughed softly, thinking I was being dramatic. Life continued. Eventually, I accepted something painful. Love cannot survive where trust doesn't exist. No matter how pure your intentions are, if someone refuses to believe them, your love slowly becomes silence. So I stopped chasing. I stopped trying to prove myself. I wished her happiness, thanked her for the memories, and quietly walked away. It was the hardest decision of my life. Every step away from her felt like leaving behind a part of my soul. For months, I avoided places where we used to meet. I buried myself in work, focused on improving my career, spent time with family, learned new skills, traveled whenever possible, and slowly rebuilt the version of myself that had disappeared while waiting for someone to trust me. Healing wasn't quick. There were nights when I stared at old conversations and wondered if I should message her one last time. But I never did. Some endings deserve silence. Years passed. Life changed in ways I never expected. The dreams I once talked about slowly became reality. I earned promotions, built a successful career, bought a comfortable home, and surrounded myself with people who appreciated honesty instead of questioning it. More importantly, I found peace. Not because I had forgotten her, but because I had finally forgiven her. One afternoon, while attending a charity event organized by my company, I heard someone quietly say my name. I turned around. It was her. Time had changed both of us. She looked older, not because of age, but because of regret. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled weakly. "You've changed." "So have you?" I replied. We sat together with cups of coffee, talking like strangers who once knew everything about each other. She asked about my work. I asked about her family. The conversation was polite, but something invisible stood between us. Finally, she looked down and whispered, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Did you really love me?" I smiled. Even after all those years, that question hurt. "I never stopped loving you while I was with you." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't believe you." "I know. I thought you would eventually leave like everyone else." "I never wanted to." She covered her face for a moment before speaking again. "I kept waiting for proof. You already had it." Silence followed. The kind of silence that says everything words cannot. She admitted she had compared me to people who had hurt her in the past. She had judged my sincerity through the mistakes of others. Instead of trusting my actions, she trusted her fears. I was afraid of being disappointed. And because of that, I said gently, "You never allowed yourself to be loved." Tears rolled down her cheeks. I lost someone who truly cared. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. She asked if we could start again. Years earlier, I would have agreed without thinking, but life had taught me an important lesson. Love may return. Time never does. The version of me that had waited endlessly no longer existed. I had become someone different. Someone who understood that real love also requires mutual trust. Without trust, love slowly dies. I looked at her with kindness, not anger. I don't hate you. I know. I've forgiven everything. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, I smiled softly, but carrying pain forever only hurts both people. She cried harder. I wish I had believed you. I wish you had too. The event ended. We walked toward the parking lot together. Before leaving, she said something I will never forget. I'll regret this for the rest of my life. I looked at the evening sky before answering. Don't regret losing me. She looked confused. Regret losing the chance to trust someone who truly loved you. She nodded silently. Then we walked in opposite directions. I never saw her again. Sometimes people ask whether I still think about her. The answer is yes, not because I want her back, but because she taught me one of life's greatest truths. The most painful heartbreak isn't when love ends. It's when love is real, but fear convinces someone it isn't. Many people spend their lives searching for loyalty, honesty, and genuine affection. Some are lucky enough to find it. Others find it, but fail to recognize it until it has already walked away. She became successful in her own life. I became successful in mine. From the outside, everything looked perfect. But deep inside, she carried one question that could never be answered differently. What if I had believed him? There was no second chance. No miracle. No dramatic reunion. Only memories. Only lessons. Only the quiet truth that love is fragile and trust is what keeps it alive. If you are fortunate enough to meet someone whose actions consistently show respect, loyalty, and kindness, don't spend your entire life waiting for impossible proof. Sometimes the greatest mistake isn't loving the wrong person, it's doubting the right one until they no longer have the strength to stay. And somewhere in another season of life, she continued living with everything she had ever wanted, except the one thing she once refused to believe. A love that had been completely real. By the time she finally understood its value, the moment had already passed forever.